Hey everybody, this is Paul with Clever Recluse Games. Today, what I'd like to talk to you all about are basically some of the features of the character sheet and what it means for I Am Minotaur. The first section is obviously the character name. Under the character name, there are backgrounds. There are three backgrounds in I Am Minotaur. The first is Denizen. Denizens are the Minotaurs who live in cities. The next are Outlanders. Outlanders tend to live in villages in human lands. And finally, the third background are Nomads. Nomads tend to wander and don't stay in one place for very long. Backgrounds can alter your ability scores somewhat to a limited extent. Underneath backgrounds, we have careers. Careers are essentially the character classes. Minotaurs can be sorcerers, they can be priests, they can be warriors. And for more information, we probably will do another video based solely on the careers. Underneath the careers, we have traits. Traits are chosen by the player and are essentially character traits that the Minotaur has. Certain traits such as compassionate, selfish, honorable. The first trait is always chosen by the player. The second trait is actually rolled in the GM's guide based upon the player's choice. There is a chart for secondary traits. Flaws. Flaws are used to alter ability scores. For every flaw, you get to re-roll a character trait. You can only have up to 3 flaws. After 3 flaws, your character becomes an NPC and you will no longer be able to play that character. Of course, over on the other side, we have current hit points and maximum hit points. And that's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't know what hit points are, if you're new to RPGs, hit points measures the amount of damage you have taken. One note about damage here is that I Am Minotaur has a very robust critical hit system, and there are times where one hit can kill a character. It can happen with that particular critical hit system. Next, we have primary attributes. And these are basically the character statistics. They are all generated via random roll, although with some statistics, with some attributes, you do get to roll twice, and in others, you get to either add or subtract a modifier. The first primary attribute is fitness. Fitness is how big and strong your character is. Obviously, Minotaurs are usually very big and very strong, so they have high fitness scores. To reflect this, fitness is rolled 3 times on percentile dice, and the highest number is taken, and then you add 20 to it. So the highest fitness that a Minotaur can achieve is 120, and the lowest they can have is 30. The next attribute is wit, and Minotaurs are not notoriously witty. Wit is always being able to say the right thing at the right time. With wit, what you would do is you would roll percentile dice once and then subtract 10. The next attribute is awareness. How aware is the Minotaur of the world around them? And what you would do is you would roll percentile dice twice and take the highest number. The next attribute is worldliness. Worldliness is knowledge of the world around you, book smarts, so to speak. Minotaurs are not stupid, contrary to popular belief, but they aren't overly intelligent either, so you would roll percentile dice once with no modifier. Nimbleness. How dexterous is your Minotaur? Minotaurs are not known for their dexterity. So, what you would do is you would roll percentile dice once and you would subtract 10. The next is resolve. Resolve is willpower. Minotaurs have quite a bit of willpower. So to generate this attribute, you would roll twice and pick the highest number. Finally, the last primary attribute is influence. Influence only affects your dealings with other Minotaurs and NPC Minotaurs at that. It is almost the equivalent of charisma in other games. And for that, you would roll percentile dice once, and that would be your influence. Okay, now we're discussing secondary attributes. Secondary attributes are determined by a simple formula, although I will admit you may need a calculator to figure everything out. The first secondary attribute, the first secondary attribute is devotion. Devotion determines how devoted your character is to a particular set of beliefs. And to determine devotion, you must add your resolve and your influence and then divide by 2, rounding down. Some of us can do it in our heads, while others of us need calculators. I will be the first to admit that 9 times out of 10, I need a calculator. The second secondary attribute is fearsomeness. Fearsomeness, it determines how terrifying you are to smaller creatures such as humans and elves. And to determine your fearsomeness, you add your fitness and your influence, and then you divide by 2, rounding up. And those are the secondary characteristics. Okay, now to explore the second column of the character sheet. We've already discussed current hit points and max hit points. The next on our agenda is dodge. Dodge is always capitalized in I Am Minotaur. It is actually a skill that is mostly dependent on the career. However, shields can also add to the dodge score. Dodge is a percentage. If you roll under dodge, you have dodged a certain attack. If you roll over, you have failed to dodge. The dodge characteristic is going to be different for each character. Next is defense rating. Defense rating has to do with armor. The higher the defense rating, the more armor you have on. And we can go further into that in another video. Underneath defense rating, we have fitness adjustment. Characters with a high fitness will get a bonus to damage and to penetration, which is the penetration is rates how effective a weapon is against armor. A high fitness adjustment means you do more damage. A low or a negative fitness adjustment means you do either less damage or you get no additional damage bonus. Okay, moving on, we are looking at luck points. Luck points can be used to alter the results of a die roll, but they can only be used defensively. For instance, you could not use a luck point to ensure that your character hits a target with a sword, but you could use a luck point to ensure that a character dodges a blow or a magical spell does not affect the character, etc., etc. Luck points are very limited. You only have a few and they do not come back easily throughout the course of the game. Underneath luck points, you have lucidity adjustment and lucidity modifier. Both of these statistics have to do with characters going berserk. Minotaurs have a tendency to lose their tempers and start attacking everything in sight, or they flee. They have a very strong fight or flight mechanism. The higher the adjustment or modifier, the more likely the Minotaur is to go berserk. Lucidity adjustments are rarely changed throughout the course of the game. They are determined by the primary attributes, the secondary attributes, and the career. The lucidity modifier, however, is situational and changes quite often during the course of play. The next row is spell points and max spell points. These are fairly obvious. Spell points, every spell cast in I Am Minotaur costs spell points. Spell points can be regained through rest, and there are other means to regain spell points. The spell points on the left is just the current spell points. The max spell points are the total maximum amount of spell points that the Minotaur has. Maximum spell points goes up for each additional level of power. The bottom of the character sheet lists the active afflictions. Afflictions are states of being that are affecting the Minotaur negatively. For example, a Minotaur could be berserk, and that could be an active affliction. Total experience points is the number of experience points Minotaurs have. Experience points, as in almost all role playing games, determine what level your Minotaur is at. Finally, there is the level of power, and the level of power is determined by the number of experience points you have. Everyone starts at the first level of power. Level of power is fairly self explanatory if you've played a lot of RPGs. And that's it for the first page of the I Am Minotaur character sheet. We will have more information on the second page of the I Am Minotaur character sheet in a future video. Please feel free to leave a comment or send us an email letting us know what you think. Thanks for taking this journey with us. Take care and talk to you soon.